So I have got a really, really, really interesting Rave Story TV podcast incoming. So I've made it a real mission of mine to not just cover London. It's instinctively easy for me to call up all my London mates and they get on a train 2 or 3 stops and end up in the studio. But getting people from around the country has been slightly trickier because of people's diaries, timings, trains, the time it takes to come down. But I've been very proud of what we've done with Rob Tessera, Nev, Amnesia House, DJ Dougal. We've had people in SS. What a story, DJ SS. And this man, MC Magika, has got an absolutely fascinating history in the rave scene. It literally fascinates me, from like the days of Carl Cox, the rave scene in the early days, MCing with the Prodigy. Like, for me personally, one of my best ever moments in the mid-90s of the Helter Skelter era was when this man and Sticksman MC'd on my Keep the Fires Burning set. It's like, that is a set that people and myself still talk about to this day. And in more recent times, he's MC'd for me at Reminisce Festival in Liverpool, which is arguably probably the biggest 90s festival in the UK. And we had a magical moment when Abigail Bailey, who sung I Just Can't Get Enough, ended up on stage with us. He's got a book coming out, MC Magika, Make Some Noise. And Carl Cox has written, Magika could hype a crowd like no other. Magika, welcome along. It has taken ages. Like, trust me, we've been planning this for a few months.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's been hard to navigate because of you know lifestyle and work and all the rest of it, because I have a job away from music and stuff. So, but I'm really great and honoured to be here, man. Honestly, you know, I love this whole thing, and to be a part and to be recognised and acknowledged and to be able to share that story means a lot, man.
Yeah, mate. When you sent me over your notes, like, so much of it, I've crossed paths with you on flyers recently. All of the work that you did for bringing that buzz of Sanctuary back. Like I say, you performed in London. Last time was in London with me in Brixton for Jumping Jack Frost Night. And there were so many things that I knew, but the amount of things that just made me go, wow, 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 wow. And I said to you, people, like, you've blown me away with some of the things that you've told me. Take me right back, growing up before the rave scene, what life was like for you, and then discovering the rave.
So from when I was young, my family, we were raised in an area called Sturchley, which I'm heavily connected to. And it was hard, man, because like racism, National Front, there was a movement called the Sturchley Skins. It was a hard place to live. The education was different. So even in the school, I was like one of a few minority of ethnic in the school. And it was hard, you know, the levels of racism was quite high. It was hard, kind of got used to it. Shouldn't have to get used to it, but you had to, because it just was an everyday occurrence. And then over the years, you know, made friends in the area, came from not a sort of extreme or militant religious background, but my parents were religious now, you know what I mean? They were really religious Muslims. And, you know, I had to go and learn the Quran after school every day, Monday to Friday, which really affected and impacted my learning, because it was constantly learning, like going to school, not doing the homework properly, having to go to Quran. But that was cultural. It was part of what my parents knew, you know. So I don't hold anything against them. That's how it was. So coming through that, with that religious background as well, finding the rave scene later on through my friends in the area was hard, because my parents had aspirations of me to, you know, follow the academic route, which 99% of Asian families, that's what they're geared to do. So that was really enforced. So going out to an all-night rave and stuff was just like, and then religion, it was just like, nah. So that was hard to approach. And then as I found the rave scene in the late 80s through friends who were attending loads of acid house parties, and you know the story of what was going on back then in the late 80s, and it just intrigued me. It was, you know, I'd never really done much in terms of going out, and I was just really fascinated by the music. I was working in a club. I was underage,
right?
I was working in the club, sat on a bar, right, working, 16, and it was a famous club in Birmingham called Coast to Coast,
right?
And it was a bit of a mecca for the rave movement. Everybody passed through there. MC Lenny was like the resident at the time. Bassman used to be there, but before even that, it was like, you know, Sasha, you know, Carl Cox would be there, Keith Suckling, and that was like the place where everybody went. It was called the Bass Place, and I worked in there before I even got to know of that club. I didn't even know what rave was. I just heard this tune, and I was just like, wow, what is that? And it was T99.
Oh,
Anastasia.
what a tune to get gripped.
Right. Yeah, listen.
What a tune to get gripped by.
Yeah, listen, right. And there's a little story with that tune. And I was just like, what is this? And it was at a time where I didn't really understand why the DJ kept playing this tune all the way through. And that's when someone said, he's mixing.
Right.
And I was like, right, okay, because I didn't know, I was like young, you know, I was school still. And I was like, what? He keeps playing this tune. This one tune just keeps getting rinsed all the way through. Like for an hour, I've heard this tune about 7 times because he's mixing it all the way through. And I went, yeah, that's how it goes. But a little story, we'll go back to it. A little story with that tune. I lived in London for a period of time, and Everson Allen took me under his wing. I was working here, and then I kind of had to move out where I was living, and he got me into a friend's place called Pauline, and I live there. Her daughter, actually, Naira, is a songwriter, and she wrote Sounds of the Underground by Girls Aloud.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm around these people, and there was a guy there called Patrick, and he was from Belgium. And he would stay there at the house when he came over to just for his work and stuff, studio sessions. And we got chatting, and this was about 98, 99. And he said, yeah, I made lots of rave records. And I went, really? Which one? And he went, Anastasia. And I went, literally, I went cold.
Wow.
I went cold. I like goosebumps. I've got them now. I went cold. I stood up and I walked out of the room, and I actually swore in shock, like, you know, F off, and went upstairs, came back down, and I sat back down and I went, do you realise how significant you are to my life? I am here because of you.
I love that, the excitement going on.
Mate, and I was like, I am here because of you.
Yeah.
And he was like, really? And I was like, dude, that's the track that lured me in.
Yeah.
And even like because I'm not diagnosed, but I've got ADHD. I'm sure I have.
We all have, mate. We all have who do this podcast. Don't worry. You're in safe hands here. ADHD, all you wish. You're fine. You're fine.
And then in 2015, me and Carl did 25 years of Carl Cox, and he said, "What do you want me to start with?" And I went, T99 Anastasia.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that record. That lured me in to go into my friends who were going to raves and saying, can I hear more of this?
I love that. Do you know what I love about that? Like, I have a lot of significant records, but you hear that in 91, then 6-7 years later, when you move here, you meet the guy who makes it. Then one thing that needs to be said, this man, I believe, in the past 20 odd years is the only person who's got Carl Cox out to do an old school set. Obviously, at the time of recording this, I know he's doing one at the Prodigy gig coming up.
Yeah.
You got him out to do that. That needs fucking celebrating, and then Carl Cox opens with his set for you with the tune that got you into the rave scene. Tell me this, how different, right, from a religious upbringing, Muslim culture, learning about that, and then all of a sudden being introduced to something so heavy and hard as Anastasia. The music in that period was so hard, and then witnessing people on ecstasy and that culture, it's worlds apart, mate. It's worlds apart, right?
No, of course. I didn't really notice the drug aspect straight away. It didn't really. I noticed, obviously, not induced by it, but I felt the love.
Right.
That's what I felt. I felt the warmth of, being a kid, being raised in a racial time where your colour was an important thing, and being at these raves, I was emotional by it because it touched me. It was like nobody cared where you came from. People coming up to you and asking you how you are, and giving you water. Girls, I remember girls in my area, they wouldn't talk to an Asian guy because they'd be mocked for talking to a Paki. And people were just converging and congregating and talking and embracing. That's what I noticed. I didn't notice anything else. Obviously, I was aware of it. But I noticed the love.
Yeah, I love that because everyone has such. Was you into hip hop or anything?
I got introduced to my older brother. He went to America in the 80s, and he came back with Rob Bass and Easy Rock.
Oh, It Takes Two. Yeah.
Oh, mate. And then obviously Public Enemy, Johnny Kemp, and all these artists that he bought tapes from. And that was my first kind of It Takes Two thing. And then I was Fear of a Black Planet and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is cool, man. It's I was into pop. I loved pop. Who didn't?
That's fascinating. You mentioned Johnny Kemp, like a swing beat R&B artist. Not many people know Johnny Kemp. I'm more impressed with you knowing Johnny Kemp than Public Enemy and Rob Bass and Easy Rock, because everyone knows Rob Bass and Easy Rock and Public Enemy, but not Johnny Kemp.
And that shows how big you are, because whenever I mention that, other people look at me. But you are an anorak. You're an encyclopedia. Yeah. So I really appreciate that, because that was, I would have never known who that was if it wasn't my brother bringing those tapes, and stayed with me forever.
Well, when did the inkling to rap and MC, was it pre the Anastasia? Was it hearing your brother's records, or was it the rave that made you pick up the mic?
It was like, we had a rave that took place in Birmingham called at the place called the Moseley Dance Centre, and it was run at the time by Earl Faulkner from UB40,
which you have a great connection with. UB40, I love that connection you have with them.
That was another one. They were integral into taking me on and giving platforms and whatnot. And they used to run a club there called Earthquake. And as you know, Earl and Rob, who we used to work with from Blast, they run Rough Tone, and they did, Crapman on the Line and stuff. So they had this thing away from, going out and being the megastar of UB40.
They did LSD and Swanee as well. Roughneck Business.
Those guys were around them as well. Not at that time, but they came into it 100%. And they ran a place called Earthquake. And I remember going with my friends, and I said, I want to go, and they said, come to this if you want to hear more. So I went down, and we went in, and I was just watching, and I just watched a couple of random guys, and I said, I really like what they're doing, and it sounds really interesting. And then my friend started playing me. This is the guy that really kind of stood out for me, because he was the main guy at the time. If not just in the Midlands, but in the UK, because people travelled everywhere back then, as you know. Man Paris.
Oh, yes, legendary. When I first played Helter Skelter, I really felt a sense of his presence and historic meaning to Helter Skelter and the scene of that time. Very legendary, Man Paris, absolutely.
Yeah, I have him on everything. And even just to have him, I always look over and go, I treasure it.
He was a DJ as well, wasn't he?
He still is.
Right.
He still DJs and does things, but he was known for that. He was known for MCing, and he was one of the first. I remember going to, when I first got to see him, I went to an illegal party called Raw.
Right.
And do you remember that character, that cartoon character, Mad, M-A-D? But people will probably Google it now. But that was the flyer. He was like an iconic comic from America character. And that was the flyer, so it stood out. And it took place in a place called Hall Green Dog Stadium. And next to there was a warehouse. So it was that old vibe of mobile phone, convoy, meeting point. So I got to experience that. And then when we got there was a massive barricade with the police. And we thought, oh man, we're all doomed. And then we just all walked past. The police they just kind of allowed it because thousands had turned up, Dan. Thousands. And we went in, and I think Mickey Finn was on. Sasha was there, and Man Paris. And I remember for the first time that I saw a laser. And to me, it was like watching Jean-Michel Jarre, from Young Kid on TV, to sort of Star Wars. And then I saw this dread guy, like the Predator, come out on the stage. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I saw the tapes, and my friends gave me the tapes. And then back to Moseley Dance Centre, it was just like, I'd love to have a go. So I just started I remember I went down and I spoke to Earl, and I stood out in the reception while all my friends went, what are you doing? I went, I'm staying here until I get to meet the guy that runs this. What for? Because I'm going to try and see if I can you ain't going to get nowhere. That perception, which people still have today, you can't make an effort and do anything. And I'm the worst person to say you can't do anything to. So I was like...
You know that's ADHD, didn't you? You tell an ADHD person they can't do something, fuck you.
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
Mate, yeah. You're so right, man. And he came... What do you want? And it was with a guy called Jerry Parchment, and Jerry Parchment was the producer for U2. He produced like Red Wine and all that kind of stuff. And he was working with Earl on the events. He goes, well, you've been here for hours. What is it? And I went, I really want to MC, and I want you to give me a chance. And they went, right, come next week. And I was like, really? And then I went away, and then I said to my friend, I need to listen to stuff. And I was there just practicing all week, just trying to get in my head of what I'm going to do. And then I turned up, went to pay my $5 to get in, and they went, no. I went, huh? And my friends are all looking at me, huh? And I was like, they said, put your money away. And I put my money away, and they went, come in. And then the rest was history, man. Just went in and started, and that's how it began.
Did you have lyrics, or was you more of a host? Can you remember the DJs you were?
Yeah, the DJs at the time, it was a guy, and he was really up and coming. And as you know, how many people, even from your time when we started out then, how many people were on the circuit that were trying to do stuff and just fell off by the wayside?
Oh, mate, some of my favourite DJs never got past 1992. Basically, I'm sure sometimes people hear me talk about my heroes and go, who, mate?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we had a tribe of them. One was called Psychonies, and he was like a scratcher, and he made it to some rounds in the DMC, and then he just fell off because of work. There was a load of people, but the guy called G-Max, he could have done it, but he just fell off. He was the one that kind of really sticks to mind. There was no other guests at the time at that place, but it had a core following, and the place was absolutely mobbed, rammed. It was a great place to be. Moseley Dance Centre. The actual building is still there as a dance centre. But yeah, that was a brilliant place for me to just get used to things in school.
Did they have you back every week?
I was there every week, mate. Yeah.
So how long did that last for?
Moseley Dance sort of lasted for about a year or two.
Every week?
Every week.
From 1991 times?
Yeah. To about 90, from 1990 to about 92. And then you had, on a Saturday, you had a place called Marco Polo's. A lot of people came through there, mate. I'm talking...
Are you Birmingham?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, tell us about the Birmingham scene.
Yeah,
Come on.
A lot of people came through that. I'm talking even other genres. Tony DeVee.
Yeah.
He came through Marco Polo's, and that was every Saturday. And then it was just like, I'm just here, just doing Friday there, Saturday there, part of this community, blah, blah. And I aspired for more. I wanted to be on these other events that I was looking at. And that's when, the real push came. And yeah, it was a hard push, man. People say to me, "Oh, you must have done this over the years." Listen, mate, my primary job is martial arts and only in a martial arts school. I never made lots of money from MCing, but my experiences from MCing are very rich. I got to do a lot of stuff. The hustle was real, not being paid, giving your expenses, sometimes nothing at all, even being on big events and not getting nothing. But the push came. It was more from here. I never really thought about money. It was signing on most of my time, as a lot of people in the arts world do. That's when the real push came to get on these events. It was that sense of, oh, I can get onto that event. I want to be on that flyer. I want to be on that flyer of that big event.
What were the events that you really wanted to be in? What were the ones that you looked at and thought, I want to be on that?
Mate, well, like for example, at the time, kicking about was Pandemonium, Quest, Amnesia. There was loads of events that were happening. I was even going in, like Aston Villa Leisure Centre was a big thing at the time. It was the first venue next to Aston Villa football ground, owned by the Villa. And it was the first venue to do legal raves. So I'd go intricate where I'd actually contact the venue, speak to some kind of management guy who knows nothing about the rave scene, and I'd say, what raves have you got booked up coming over the next 6 months? And he'd say, blah, 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 blah. And I'd make up some lie, like, I'm from the student union, I want to do a research thing, and then he'd give me the number. And then I'd ring them. And the next minute, I'm on these shows.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and that was...
You're stalking them down.
Mate, you had to, it was like, do or it dies, it doesn't happen. Because these people aren't going to give you a chance. I remember Jez Bailey from Quest. He said to me, I wrote him a letter and it was probably as long as my arm. And when I rang him, he picked up the phone and I said, blah, blah, writes me, I wrote you a letter. And he just went, Magika. Because I got to him. He got the letter. Yeah. Nobody was doing that kind of effort. At that stage, for me, nobody was doing that. It's okay going up to someone, oh, give us a set, mate. My approach was a lot different, and I think that's what kind of just got me noticed and made some people warm and want to give this guy
perseverance, man. Do you know what? Someone tagged me. They found a box of letters from Dreamscape, and in it was this actual letter that I'd written to Dreamscape saying, I've been DJing for 5 years, blah, 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 blah. Here's my tape, here's my record. And I know they basically photocopied this letter for me and sent it to me and say, look, you wrote this in 1995, you know? Yeah. And that is a nice approach. Like the letters, come on, we're so busy on WhatsApp. Yeah. And, we talking to ChatGPT now and messages and letters, man. Letters, listen. That is old school.
Letters. And do you remember, of course you'll remember. I don't even know why I'm asking you the question, but when you used to go to record shops and they used to have the flyer tables.
Yeah, of course.
I had a flyer table in my house, in my room. And so any flyer I'd get, I'd go into the shop and I'd take a big pile, or I'd say to them, can I have a load? I'm going to give them around, but I want some for myself. And I'd had a flyer pack table. I'd buy loads of envelopes with my dole money, go and get my stamps, put my flyers in, ring up. I used to go and buy a Mix Mag. In the back of Mix Mag, used to have an index of all what was going on around the country. I'd contact all these promoters. One of them, we spoke about him earlier. I contacted him, Funky.
Yeah, we love Funky.
Yeah, we love
Funky, we love you, mate.
Big time.
There's a seat waiting for you here.
Big time. Yeah, listen, mate, you've got to do it. He will come.
He's more elusive than Sonia. I've even managed to get Sonia on here. Well, if you could do that, people didn't even believe Sonia existed. They thought I'd made her up in my brain. But Funky, every week I phone him and go, are you coming in next week, mate?
Yeah, I'll be doing it after this, mate. You need to get on there, mate. Come on. Yeah. I got hold of him, sent him, and Elevation. Next minute, I'm there. And I was the first ever first Birmingham artist other than Keith Suckling to play in London and as an Asian MC to play at Elevation. And I remember being at the Astoria for one of them, and there was me, and it was the first one for the legendary MC. It was his first ever. So it was me and him, first ever for him, first ever for me. He's like talking to me and blah, blah, blah. And then there was this guy around the back, right? And he kept coming up, and he managed to get backstage, and he kept coming up. We didn't know who he was. And this is how far the roots go back. And I think this is going to help a lot of people just to show the depth of my depth.
Yeah.
And how far it goes back. And who was that guy? Stevie IPD.
There you go.
Right? And nobody knew him. Nobody knew him at all. So that's how far it goes back. And then Funky was working with Mike Scott at the time, and they really supported me heavily. You know, I'm still around Funky to this day. So yeah, that was a big thing for me. That was before even like MC Lenny or Bassman performed in London. That's how far it goes back. I got to do that all those years ago. So yeah, the history's there.
Yeah, mate, that's absolutely incredible. But Carl Cox, you and him were literally a partnership, right? You like explain that. I want to talk about that, but you've mentioned Keith Suckling a few times. Talk to me about the Carl Cox partnership first, and all of the amazing things you did, how you met him, how it started, and all of the places that you went to.
Yeah, I mean, for me, mate, it was like I was on the local circuit, and one of the main places was a hot spot for me, and I was one of the first. They never used to have guest MCs, and it was Kinetic Leisure Bowl, and they never had guest MCs. They had their resident MC Connie, and they never had guest MCs, and I was the first guest MC to be there, and I started playing there, you know, once a month, going up. And, you know, catching a coach and keeping in the coach because I didn't drive, didn't have no money, you know what I mean? So, I'm not here to plead poverty. That's where it was. It was like that, travelling around the place, sleeping in a coach station. People think it was like you're in a tour bus, you know, living on a bed of roses. It wasn't, mate. It wasn't like that. But anyway, I fully enjoyed it. It wouldn't change anything for the world. And I was at one of the events at Club Kinetic. I'd done loads of the stuff. And that's where he noticed me. And then I got asked to go to the Ulster Hall in Belfast for an organisation called Underground. And it was the one gig, Dan, where I absolutely was petrified. It was like a countdown to Armageddon because it was in the height of the IRA.
And Frost has spoken about this in his book, hasn't
he?
Yeah.
That comes in later. We'll mention him because that comes in later. Very interesting with that one. So we're over there, like, and I've gone over. The first thing I've seen is the murals, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna get done. I like just my mindset. I was just so scared, and went to the show, Ulster Hall. And I didn't even know it was on, mate, until I got there. And Carl was there doing his DJ thing, and he was doing his PA thing. And he did his PA thing, and I MC'd for one of the DJs, did what I did, sent it through the roof, you know, and Neil McLennan, you know, the legend behind the prodigy, and he was Carl's secret weapon. He came over and he went, there was like a resident guy working for Underground. He was an Italian, like proper from Italian, full accent, but he worked in their record shop and he was on the mic, and Neil went, nah, you need to go on for Carl. And I went on, and the whole landscape of the performance changed, because I was never about me. It was just about crowd interaction, picking up that vibe and atmosphere, breaking down the music, making them go mental, using whatever tricks you could just to hype the crowd up. And then there was a false alarm bomb attack, right? And I thought, honestly, Dan, I thought, these were all my fears. I thought, shit, I'm gonna die. I'm like, shit. Like, I really thought I was gonna die. I was like, oh man, this is like, I went all pale. And I remember Neil coming over, you've gone pale, dude. I went, because I was shitting it. So we went out into the street and it was a false alarm. And what it was so, because they never had a system in place, everybody who couldn't get in because it sold out, they'd have them back in. And then everyone else come in.
Oh, so it was even more jam. Mental.
They were like spilling over like the balcony, because it had a big balcony, like Brixton. So they're spilling over the balconies and hanging, and I'm like, shit. So we did the gig, and I'm not joking. I'd never experienced sort of pop hysteria. When Carl came off, we had to go. They escorted us. It was like Michael Jackson leaving the building. We had to go down these steps. I followed Carl and Neil. People going fucking mad. Like he was like some Beatles or Take That or something like that. We got into this car and went, you get in as well. And I was like, huh? So I got in as well. Then they escorted us through, and there was like vehicle before and behind with like security walking alongside. And I was like, I thought it was something to do with the bomb. I was like, shitting it. And it was because of him. And people screamed at the vehicles. It was crazy. We got back to the hotel, and I'm in my room, and my phone rang, and it was Neil, because obviously I told him what room I was in, and Neil rang and he went, "What are you doing?" I went, "I'm just chilling."
He'd be room scared. Yeah, I'm going to be bombed.
Yeah. And he said, "Come upstairs." So I went up, and it was just him and Carl in the room. And Carl went, "Listen, man, I've been noticing you. I've been watching you. I've been seeing you at places." And he said, "There's loads of great MCs, but for me, you stand out." And Neil went 100%. And he said, "We're missing an exponent. We're missing something. We're missing a guy on the mic." And I was just in shock still, because I was very in awe. I was like, I'm sat with Carl Cox, right? And I'm just like looking, not really, just quiet. You know, like when you get to that stage, when you meet someone, and I was like, because I was still very young. And he went, "How do you feel about coming on tour?" I was like, I didn't know what to do at the beginning. I was just, and he went, "It's okay. Come on, man." I was like, 100%. I was like stuttering and everything. And then we got back to the UK, and the next minute, this woman rang me from his office. "I've got a fax to send you." And I went, "I don't have a fax machine." And I was like, "What do you want to send me?" "Your itinerary." And I was like, "Oh." And I remember having to go to this office up the road where they did admin, where one of them places where you could get photocopies.
I remember them days, yeah. I remember those days. Yeah.
And I said, "Can I receive a fax, please?" And they went, "Yeah." And it just came through. And I just literally like went all over the world. And then we did huge segments of supporting the prodigy, which was great. I remember one time, and you know what, sod's law, that cameras and stuff, and I didn't carry anything, even like a normal camera. I remember the one show we did, the Big Love Universe, and Prodigy headline, and we played. And I remember I was going through it, you know, like mad. And I just remember looking to the side, and he was there on his own watching, and he smiled at Keith, and he was just there watching like for the whole set. And I was like, bloody hell. Yeah, it's bringing back memories now.
Amazing.
So yeah, that's where it started. And then I ended up emceeing for him at loads of raves. And then when it got to like, while I was with him, he was transitioning slowly then. He was like, we'd be in the car going to somewhere like Doncaster or Newcastle or whatever, Scotland. And then all of a sudden, I've got to do a detour. I've got to go and play at blah, blah, blah. And he was playing with like Pete Tong and, you know, all these different people I wasn't really familiar with. So he was already transitioning. Then when we went to Germany, we played at a place called Euphoria. And the next minute he was like, we're going out for dinner. And I'm going to introduce you to my friends, and this is the new direction I'm going to be going in. And round the table was, God rest his soul, he's passed away now, Pascal Fayas, Sven Bath, Mark Spoon, and they were all sat there, and I could see where he was going. And even then, it was, you had the underground aspect to it, but it was very corporate, mate. They're like corporates, it was like F1. Like, you know, with the cigarette companies and everything, they were throwing money at that scene. So he was playing at Mayday and all these things. So I saw it happening and him breaking away. And then eventually he did. But, you know, I had a really, really good stint. We stayed in touch all the way through. We speak all the time. We were just speaking recently, and just before the Prodigy thing announced, he messaged me and he went, "Get ready for the blast." I went, "What blast?" He went, "I'm going to do a blast. Then the sun's going to go." And I went, "Okay." Straight away I went, "Do you need me?" "Of course." And then he said, "But I've got some other stuff to do first. Going to do this Prodigy thing." And I was like, oh, wow. So he's always loved the old school. He was a bit guarded and protected. His guard's gone down a bit now because everything's keep passing by, time's getting on, everyone's getting older. But he has said, "Listen, we're going to do another blast. We're going to go and do some stuff."
Amazing.
So, yeah. So there's the Carl Cox
What
thing, man.
other countries did you go to? So you went Germany?
Oh, everywhere. So you name it. Switzerland, France, Germany, Holland, Eastern European countries, Poland, Slovenia, Sweden, Belgium. I could keep going, mate. We went over to America. There was loads of places in America. We went all over the shop, all over the British Isles, places I would never have gone. Port Rush, Kelly's in Northern Ireland, like unbelievable place. You know, it was, again, that hysteria. Like, we're walking through the lobby of this place, it was attached to a hotel, and I'm walking with Carl and he's security, and I goes, "Carl, why is it security?" He goes, you'll see. Dan, I kid you not, all of a sudden, it was like a film. This geezer come through the roof. He come through the boards. He couldn't get in. So he climbed through the roof and he went, "Doof," and I was like, what's going on? Again, I thought, we're going to die. I thought this geezer had a bomb. And he just came through the roof and he went, "You're right, Carl." And I'm like, and he went, yeah. "Can I get in?" I was like, oh my God, I don't know if that's any Scottish more, I don't know. But he couldn't get in. And I was like, so we literally went all over Europe, smashed Scotland. So everything in Scotland, like Resurrection, the Technodrome gig, all these other, what was the other event? Some massive event in Ayrshire. It'll come to me. Thunderdome, I can't remember. But loads of places we went to, all throughout Europe, some further afield. Very vast.
Was there standout tunes that he would play that you would like standout tracks that you remember and you just think, yeah?
Yeah, I remember, like, for me, like, when he started playing Planet of Love, that was because it was his tune and it was nice to hear his productions and to see where he was going. So I always remembered that because of the response and how it made him feel. Do you know what I mean? Because he was making his own music now. But he'd play stuff I've never heard. Like, he was so intricate and deep. He'd play all the bangers. He knew what he needed to do. Then he'd go archive. Then he'd bring out some new stuff. I remember saying to him, and I can't remember what the tune was, and I went, "Who's that?" And he went, "Oh, just something new I've received, and just, got to push the new stuff out there." So he was always pushing, and yeah, like everybody, like you, he cared.
Yeah.
He cared, mate. So, and it made a difference, and it showed. And the love that people had for him, I've seen people get love. I've seen it. But it was very different to what it is now, even. There was something about Carl they just loved.
An aura.
There was, mate, massive aura. And he made time for people, and he's always smiling. One thing I remember him saying to me, he said, "Life's too short." I said, "You're always smiling, man. Always happy." Even when I was telling him stuff that was going on in my life, it's still like, through it, you know, and he was like, life's too short, man. We've got to just make the most and try and leave your stuff at the door and just try and focus. And I've even carried those sentiments into my work. So sometimes when I'm coaching, I might have had certain things going on in my life or a bad day or whatever, and I've got a responsibility now. So I go forward and I forget things and I crack on with what I need to do. But yeah, we still stay in touch. I still gnaws the life out of him and messaging all the time. I'm actually I'm linking up with him. He's in Birmingham next month, playing at the Utilita for the Prodigy. So I'm going to chill out and hang out and see him. And I went to see him in Bournemouth in the summer when he played at the beach.
Yeah.
I went to see him and he played old school.
Amazing.
He played old school, man. And he played far out, and I was there, and I was like, and everybody's jumping up and down, and I went to him like, look. He goes, I don't need to look, I know.
Yeah, do you know what I love about him? He's like, when I do my posts on the net, you know, like my shorts where I go, remember this tune? And he comments a lot, and he's really passionate if I do like an acid house tune, whenever I do a Top Buzz or Ron Wells. And another thing that I've really picked up when he talks on my post, he's like 99% will go, oh, we love you, and they'll respond to him and he'll reply to people. But when people say, oh, we don't like the new music you play, it was just, why did you leave old school and rave? He always replies with a thought out reply, like, and you can tell his passion that that era means so much to him.
Yeah.
You know?
What's his roots, man? And he's true to his roots, and he remembers everything, and he remembers the foundations, like all of us. You know what I mean? You remember everything, and that's why you're where you're at, where you are, because you remember everything.
Yeah. Do you know what I love? When Fantasy, because obviously you and Fantasy were really close to him, really, really close to him, and Steve told some stories like you've told about hotel rooms and remembering conversations, and when we put the pod out with Fantasy, Carl come underneath and went, this is all true what Steve said. This is facts. This is exactly how it happened. And it's like, and I think that's important that he's so passionate about what you guys say and do and still in touch with you. And, that's magic.
Man. No, it was, especially when he got to that level, I thought he'd forget. So I was always touched when he embraced and responded and gave time and would ring from, because he lives part of the year, 6 months of the year in Australia, and he'd ring me in Australian time to say hi, how you doing? Through COVID, he really touched me. He reached out. I just want to make sure you're okay. And what he was doing was he was reaching out to everybody all around the world to make sure everyone was okay. And we was on the phone. Honestly, we was on the phone for about an hour and something. And I always respect, that's someone who cares.
Yeah.
Stays in touch and
honourable.
Yeah, man.
From Carl Cox, you've mentioned Keith Suckling a few times, and he was a name that, like, he's really like authentic, and there's something synonymous to the Midlands about that name. And I don't know much about Keith Suckling, and I've heard you mention him 2 or 3 times in the past half hour, 45 minutes. Tell me about Keith Suckling and why he sticks in your brain, and you've mentioned him from the very early moment that you discovered this.
Yeah, Keith Suckling was the first breakout star, DJ star, from Birmingham and the Midlands.
Right.
He was the first one to do that. He was the first one to break out and to be successful.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing him on flyers, like, he was on everything from Perception to Fantasia to, the Eclipse, the Edge, anything, Biologies, all these events around the country he was on. And he was like what Hazard is now. So everyone knows Hazard comes from Birmingham. They all know he's a superstar that's come out and broke out and went around the world. Keith was that guy. I remember coming to London, I think it was 91, and seeing him on like this huge Kiss FM event and some other event called The Living Dream and all these other shows. So he was the guy that broke out. And then he was very closely associated with Doc Scott.
Yeah.
So Doc Scott and him then, another Midlands legend, they became kind of synonymous. They were playing in London a lot together. And yeah, he was a big name, and he fell by the wayside over the years, which is tragic, man. But I don't think he gets the notoriety and acknowledgement he deserves, but because he was the first from the Midlands and Birmingham to fly the flag nationally. The guy was up there, mate.
Because what's important, right, is like in one, you can explain Carl Cox and that bigness, but then on the other end is like Keith Suckling. I see that name in this. Your passion of you spoke about him is the same way Londoners have spoke about Frankie Valentine in that chair. And I think there's just these heroes and these names that you see on flyers, and they're intriguing. Like if you don't know them, but if you do know them, you realise their potency and their power.
Well, through platforms like this, we get to keep history alive. It's really important that people get to know about these people.
Yeah.
And the impact that they had. He was a legend. He was a star. He played everywhere. He laid the foundations for many to follow. Yeah. And there'll be people that will be like, who? He was someone. Back then he was someone. He led the charge.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And a lot of us remember, many don't. Yeah. So it's really important for what you do, that we can keep these stories and these legacies and these things alive.
Yeah. So when Carl went off in his direction and you stopped being a team, where did you then go from there? What was the direction and trajectory for you musically and the events you were playing at?
For me, it was a non-brainer because things began to get a bit dark. With the whole, the landscape with gang culture, because it was rife, man. And I know that every region has got its story, but in Birmingham,
Did you watch the Aries podcast where he really touched on Birmingham in 93, 94, saying how dark it was?
Mate, it was dark, man.
And he would come down to London. He would actually come down south to Desire and World Dance. We've just had Jay from World Dance walk in the studio to see us, but Aries said he would leave Birmingham to come to Desire and World Dance and come down south because Birmingham got so dark.
That's why all those other events, the South Coast and Scotland and all these places where I was going, it was just a different contrast. The warmth and the love and the vibe and the energy was all there. Whereas Birmingham and the Midlands became very dark, very violent-esque. People were getting shot. There were deaths. There were attacks. People getting killed. In Wolverhampton, I think it was Amazon. The security, dog got shot. The Institute, which is a very famous one. I was. Mickey Finn played at the Q Club reunion a few weeks ago, and he was talking about, because it was at the Institute, and he was like, man, I haven't been in here for years. And he said, I remember coming here in the 90s, and it was like the Gooch crew from Manchester came with some of the other gangs that are local, and it went off. It was evil. It was horrible, where Mickey had to go to the roof. Mickey went to the roof. That was the only way to go to avoid anything. Moose got axed in the head.
Yeah, very famous story.
Proper, chopped in the head. And things were dark. And that's when then there was a thing where artists boycotted Birmingham. People didn't want to come there. And that was happening. It was happening all around the region. It wasn't a good place. So for me, with the music, I loved the hardcore. It was a different crowd, different energy. You didn't have to worry about that. I loved the breakbeat aspect of it, so it wasn't foreign to me. I was like, this is cool. This is great. And that's where I went for a big period.
Because you were synonymous in 95, 96. You were synonymous on my sets, Dougal's sets, the Slip Mats, the hardcore scene.
Yeah.
You really captured and embraced it, even though you'd discovered it through Anastasia, which was so much slower, been on tour with Carl Cox, seeing the darker element come in.
Yes.
But do you know what? I really liked the hardcore scene of that time, and I still carry it on with my events. And I think sometimes that period gets a really the raw end of the deal, but I think to a lot of people around the country, it meant a lot to them. You can hear on that set of ours, Keep the Fire Burning, the noise. I was going to swear, but Jay's come with his legs, so I'm not going to swear. The energy was absolutely incredible on our sets, wasn't it? It was like...
Oh, mate, it was a different time. And it was the golden era. And it worked for me, because the way I worked, it was like, my energy was like, someone said it was like Steven Tyler, star jumps, happy, running around, that long hair, just happy, smiling, not no dark, like that was just the vibe, and it worked. And that's where my heart was for a long time, until I felt the music was not right, and then I transitioned and went through that period. But yeah, it was a great time, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I remember when we'd done some, like I say, at the start of this, the Keep the Fire Burning set, I think is like one of my moments of that era.
Well, that's lovely to hear.
Yeah, and you and Sticksman really bring that alive. But then...
Big up Sticksman.
Yeah, when I then started changing with the times, because like you as an MC and some of the people, it's like, oh, I don't know, this is going a bit too far. You really embrace that more trancey core sound.
I remember that. Even at Bowlers, we did it at Manchester.
Yeah.
And it was just wicked, because it was progressive.
Yeah.
It felt grown up.
Right.
It had a bit more soul to it. Do you know what I mean? It had more substance, rather than just becoming like noise and, just not musical.
Yeah. That was a good moment in time. But you loved the Sanctuary, you loved Helter Skelter, didn't you?
Yeah, mate. It was. But I come through like that whole Sanctuary era, like through Murray, through Dreamscape, which was a journey in itself just to get there. And he really put me out there. And then when he passed, sadly, Dave had his own plans. He didn't want to mirror Dreamscape, so he had his own hosts that didn't really feature there. He wanted a different path. So I was always a very persistent guy. I mean, Jay's here, and Jay will remember me nosing him and contacting him and networking him. But Jay actually says it, if you're not networking, you're not working. So I was always working, Jay. Yeah. And Jay always reciprocated, and he showed respect all the time. And I actually gave up with Dave. I thought, right, I can't knock anymore. I've knocked until there's nothing to knock for. And then I thought, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And then he came, and the rest was history. We stayed with it, and as I said, I look after Dave's page, and we talk a lot. And but that era was golden, and that's why Forever worked. Do you know what I mean? That's why.
Well, you got the bit in between your teeth there, didn't you? Like heritage is such a huge thing now. Like heritage is the currency. Yeah. We're like the emotion that we all have as artists, promoters, DJs, MCs, and then this audience of 50 to 60-year-olds. Yeah. Me and you talking about Keep the Fires Burning is 30 years ago. This stuff is 31 years ago, and that's some emotion to be able to go, I love this time so much, I want to do a rave for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people across 2 weekends, may I add, because that's not easy to do. It's hard enough, some promoters getting 200, 300, 500 people, but to go, right, I'm going to do this and get thousands and thousands across 2 weekends. We know you've got ADHD. You've said that already at the start, but you really went for that. You could only go for that if that era meant so much to you.
No, there was everything. It embodied everything. There was the era. There was the story. There was about doing something special, like creating a piece of art that passes and surpasses through time. It was about doing something special and extraordinary. And I remember approaching the MK Arena when it first opened. They wanted nothing to do with the anti-social era, which how it was described, from the Skelter days. And they didn't want anything to do with it. And then my friend George from JBM, who runs Reggieland, he said, look, the dynamics have changed at this place. I know you look after the Skelter page. Why don't you go and have a chat? So I reached out to Dave and I said, shall I go for it and reach out? And he went, yes. So I reached out. We had these long conversations, and it wasn't happening, Dan. It wasn't happening. And then they told me no. And then being persistent, I said, why has it been rejected? They told me the head of security, who was an ex-police officer, has deemed it unsafe. So I was like, what's his name? And they told me. I contacted him. So I spoke to him on the phone. And I said, can I have the opportunity to speak to you? He goes, of course. I said, he told me he was an ex-police officer. I said, first of all, can I tell you that I've just graduated in a degree in policing and criminology. I am not some football hooligan who sells drugs. And he went, right. And I care about what I do. There's a massive passion and story behind this. And I think there's something solid that we can do here and operate and pull off together. And he was brought. He said, right, you deserve a meeting. So then me and David went and we sat with the team and they were all over it. David was like reading off people and stories and everyone knew each other kind of thing. There was like loads of paths crossing. And then we left that building with a contract. And I've still got that image, which I'll send you, right? And it says Helter, Skelter with a picture of MK Arena. And I was like, oh my God. And
It's happening.
we actually filmed a video in the car park as we were leaving to go to get in our car. And we said on the video, forward ever, backward never, watch this space. It was on. And then 2 weeks later, Dave was like, I can't do it. And I was like, what? After all that? And then for a while now, with Slipmat, I was talking about Sanctuary Forever. And he said, why don't you resort back to that plan? And I went back to George, and George said, I've got someone who I think you can go and present this idea to. He is working at the MK Arena, well, putting events on at MK Arena. So I took the whole concept of Sanctuary Forever, the way it was branded, the way it was designed by my designer, who looks after all my stuff. And we presented the whole thing, everything. Then I pulled the team in, Slipmat, Dougal, Vibes, Lively.
You were in me, but I was in San Francisco. You thought I was blanking.
I wanted you. And Storm. Did I miss anyone else? Rocky and Rock Market.
Yeah.
So we validated the story straight away. And then soon as even the video, I narrated the video, which was all moving and emotional, showing clips from 91 and the Sanctuary and, Murray walking around with a ladder and all that kind of stuff and what this era meant. And I'm not joking, mate, it did the sign was just ridiculous. I don't know, 30,000 plus or whatever. And then the event just sold out. So the whole conceptual idea for Sanctuary Forever, as an event was all my brainchild. Everything I put together. And I never thought I hoped it would work. And I never thought we'd emulate the noise levels. You talked about the noise levels. Well, we did. You was there, you saw it.
Yeah.
And you walked through it and it was like back in time.
Well, the first weeks I played in one room the first week, the other room the second week. The first week, the energy was just mental. The energy was through the roof, and it's that could only happen with the DJs authentically playing the music from that era, because there's so much heritage events happening.
Yeah.
But you never diverted away from the hardcore and the jungle and the drum and bass of that golden point that made the Sanctuary. Whereas a lot of other people they would and there wasn't much. I don't think anyone played any new music. It was you highlighted Force and Styles. You highlighted jungle drum and bass from that era, and I think that is what had to happen to give it that energy.
Yeah, no, 100%. But to do that, I remember going on stage at that event because, you get your haters online. Oh, why are you not going to get this? Oh, it's not going to be like that. And I went, listen, we're not here to emulate anything. We're not here to clone anything. We just want to have a party.
Yeah.
That is it. And the whole place went mad because that's all we were doing. But people get lost with this whole social media thing and start showing these mad emotions. Oh, it's never going to be this. Oh, you're doing this. And I was like, it's just a party to remember. Enjoy yourself. Don't take it too serious.
Yeah,
that was the whole thing.
Do you know what I love about you? Is you just persistent, because I remember you at least 10 years ago wanting to do the Sanctuary Helter Skelter reunions, and from your very start of your career, writing letters to promoters, you know, right through to the experience that then takes you with police and venues, and like, I know how passionate you are about that sanctuary moment in time, and then to turn that, it took you a long time to get to that point.
Yeah.
It took you a long time, but persistency absolutely got you there. I want to go back. I want to go back to a high and the low. The first high I want to go back to is you being in the top 4 MCs with, was it 1997?
Yeah.
So Carl Cox asked you to be his MC in the early 90s. What an accolade. You're a voice for things like Dreamscape and Helter Skelter, and then as things move on, you were top 4 MC with
MCMC, GQ, and Hyper D.
That is some list of MCs.
Yeah, that was even thinking about it. Just it feels felt surreal. I remember because it was like the Kiss FM Dance Awards when Funky and his partner Sinead, she was at Kiss. And it was powered by Kiss. And I remember arriving and they went, "You've done really, really well." I went, "Have I?" And they went, "You've done really well, man." And I was like, I had no idea. So for me, British Asian MC, from the adversities, for everything, trials and tribulations, through the self-doubt, through the racism, through disbelief, then being, and not even believing in myself, but just being persistent and wherever it takes me, it'll take me. And then having that, and still having that now, you've mentioned it, was a big thing. And there's a lot of people that are not going to know that. And I think, again, it's just nice for people to know the length of what I've done over the years. And that was a huge, significant moment for me. And I think even those guys showed a lot of respect, because at one point I actually felt like I was considered. I remember Fabio came up to me when I was doing the Drum and Bass Awards, and we were live on Radio 1 in Birmingham, and he came over and he was with his friends. Remember the Internati crew? Right. And he was with all them, and he came over to me and he went, "My friend just said to me something quite poignant." I went, "What's that?" And he said, "No, I was aware of this, but I didn't really want to talk about it. But and he said, you was considered a joke. You was considered a joke, man." And he said, "No, look." And I was considered a joke. Yeah, I remember people saying to me, "Why don't you stick to Bhangra?" And I went, "I don't know nothing about Bhangra. I've never heard it. I don't know nothing about Asian music, you know." And yeah, the joke was on them.
And does that stuff at the start when you was younger, did that stuff stick with you?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And when he said that in 2009, we was on stage. We were at the Custard Factory, place is jammed. There's about 5,000 people on site, live on Radio 1, and he's come over to me, and everything stopped for me, because he recognised what I went through. Yeah. He recognised it, and he said it, and the fact that he knew, and I knew, but I never really wanted to talk about it. I remember. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I remember it. And he that was a very poignant time. And he put his arm around me and he said, "The joke's on them."
Yeah.
And I said, it was never meant to be a joke on anyone. I was just doing me, Fabs. I was just doing what I loved.
That's hit you. I can see that. Now that's hit you now,
yeah, because he said, he was considered a joke.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was never a joke to me. It was my love.
Yeah. You know? Well, mate, listen, I can tell from you talking about discovering Anastasia, Carl Cox and his manager inviting you up to their room. Just that Anastasia story, mate, that's pure passion. Like, I know when people sit in that chair, the passion that they speak about, and I can see what that's touched you, right? And I want to, if you don't mind, and because I know this story you wanted to talk about this, and you're emotional already that your peers are saying that to you, Skegness. and not to go, you know, I can see you've gone deep in now. Skegness, the racism attack that you had, if you can compose yourself to that, because like we have spoken about incredible highs. No one has been on tour with Carl Cox like that. Do you know what I mean? Your name has gone down in a golden year in the history of the greats of the mic, right? You've brought back one of the most legacy events, the Sanctuary, and those memories for 2 weekends, and done something magic, and you're still here to this day. But, you know, to have your peers tell you what you mean, but then also at the same time, and that's going on, I know you wanted to touch on it if you've got it in here. The Skegness thing.
There was places geographically in England where racism was rife, and Skeg was one of them places. And I remember going there for the first time, and me and my friends, we stopped at a chippy to get some food, as you do. And my friend at the time driving me was Naeem, known him as Scobes. And there was another guy in the back called Bobby. We're all Asian, and we pulled up. And the first thing the lady said to me, she goes, "Be careful." I went, "Why?" She goes, "Just be careful. You'll probably get some grief." And I was like, so the warning was already there. And then it was at the Pleasure Dome, and I've come off the set, and there's people there. I was actually there with Carl. And I came off the set, and people were coming up and shaking the hand, and this guy came forward and he went, "I ain't shaking the hand of a Paki." And I was like, listen, man, I wasn't doing, first of all, as a martial artist, we don't go out and cause trouble, right? But I didn't do I had no combat experience. I didn't know how to fight or look after myself. But this guy, he came up to me, I ain't shaking the hand of a Paki, and then he spat at me in my face, and then he lunged forward, and it was impulsive. I had to do something, so I ended up grabbing him. He managed to get round, and I had long hair, and I thought he was going to severely hurt me. He really grabbed onto my hair. He pulled hair out. He was pulling me. People weren't joining in. They were just watching. There was 2 people cheering for him. And then what I did was my head jolted back. So I hit him with the back of my head unintentionally and smashed him in his nose. And his nose just exploded. And then he escaped. He ran out of there. And what hurt me was, at the time, the team that were running the event, who I considered as friends, man, they were that ashamed of the situation, but didn't want it to be tagged with what they were about, actually said, and this goes back to a conversation we had before we started about drugs, said he was, meaning me, that I was charged, that I came in there wired, that that led to my eruption. I never took a knee. I didn't want to take a knee. Why? Because I didn't want to take foreign substances into my body that I don't know where they came from, what their origins were. My mindset was different to my friends who were like, "Oh yeah!" No, that wasn't me. My drug was the natural. The high that I was on, I didn't need a drug. I was on a high altogether just from the tunes. And we talked about the love of the people.
Yeah.
And the love that was me. I didn't need no drug. So that hurt, that they used that to protect their image, you know? And I didn't work for them, go and play for them for a long time. Some years later, we conversations happened, but yeah, that was a hard moment, man, being attacked for the race, for the colour of your skin.
Yeah, and in an environment that you were drawn to because of the togetherness and the love that you felt in that very first moment that you discovered it. And do you know what's a shame? And I think as we've got older, it's easy for me and you And any person who's an artist or lives in the world of the rave every weekend of their life, and in many cases, many of us live through it every day and have grown up around people of all colours, ethnicities, and life. Right? It's our life. Like like you don't see colour, you don't see religion, you don't see all this stuff. But sadly, some people might just go to it might not be that deep to them, and they take their prejudices and their stupidity with them, and that's got to be hard to be in this world that you're drawn to through the love and the passion and togetherness of all kinds of people.
Mate, it was a very difficult thing, and it was like it didn't just happen there. It wasn't an isolated incident. You used to get, loads of times where you go, "Oh, you're right for a packy," like that would happen. Like, "Oh, you know what? You're all right, man. We don't really mingle with Asians and stuff like that, but you're all right, And I was like, wow. So just because I love this.
All right. Really, Jay should come on.
Jay needs to show his face.
Jay, stand here.
Jay needs to show his face.
So around this way, Jay, this way. Come round it. Oh, steady. So we've got Jay from Well Dance, right? Look at him. And
Imran, big up.
There you are. There, look. So this man here, he's an absolute legend. Him and Magika are very, very, very close. And listen, if I had to choose the 3 hardest people to get on this podcast, it would be Dave Helter Skelter, Funky Moondance, and Jay Well Dance.
Jay's coming,
but
man.
Jay's come that
Jay's
little
coming.
bit closer to test the water. And so here he is. I would say within a few weeks he's going to sit on this chair. But he's coming to see us both. Love you to bits. And he's got a big event coming up.
Well Dance
in May, and he'll be in to talk about it.
Yeah.
He'll be in to talk about it.
And you know what? Just on a note here, if it wasn't for Imran, World Dance wouldn't have happened last August either. So he's responsible for that. And I've just got to say it while she's here. Look, Zanaya, look over there. This one. Come here, look here. This is my goddaughter Zanaya, the warrior princess, who, again, you've started that journey for her in her martial arts thing.
Amazing.
Love.
Jay,
See you after.
We'll speak to you after. We'll speak to you in a bit. So, brilliant. See you in a bit, Jay.
Love. Always.
Bye-bye. Always. Big love, guys.
So, look at that, Jay Well Dance. We finally got him in here.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Do you know what? We have literally, me and Jay have been, another one, we've been talking about coming in. We've even had dates booked in with him to sit there, but now he's come up, he will come in. So where was we? We was at
like, even people coming up with the racism thing, "Oh, you're all right for an Asian." And I'm like, bloody hell, I'm all right. So I'm okay, because you see past the colour because of the music thing, but underneath you're racist. And mate, there was loads of that. Being at events, people walking about your packy, and it was just like, I remember Murray, God rest his soul, saying to me once, "You need to walk with a firm, mate." And I went, "Why?" Because you should have people around so people don't take the piss. I remember, I won't mention the name, household name from the rave scene, DJ. And I don't know where we were doing some media thing, and we talked about, I was asked a question about racism, and he went, "There's no racism. There is no, what are you talking about?" And to that day, I don't really talk to that guy, because I said to him, "You didn't live in my shoes. You are Caucasian white. You never faced what I did. So how can you talk to me about me when you didn't experience me? You experienced you. So how are you going to experience racism when most of the people around playing were 99% white or black?" And what I always notice is with the black, even growing up, there was a fear towards black people, like picking on them or bullying them and blah, blah, blah. So even growing up as a teenager and school kid, I remember in my school, I was the only Asian and there was a black guy, and I'm still in touch with him today, David. And he was big. No one went near him, mate. No one went near him. And, but it was rife. I had a lot of racism for it, but again, my skin was thick. It had to be, because otherwise it would have just ended. you know? It was just something, I think I was schooled from a young age for it to bounce off you because it happened for so long. So it wasn't new. Doesn't make it mean it was right. Was it uncomfortable? Of course it was. Was it painful? Of course it was. But you learn to tolerate it.
Before we get back to the music, do you think in this modern era of the internet, right, where everything's magnified, and you've grown up in the 80s, you've experienced racism in what should be a safe environment of rave. Do you think racism in the modern day of the internet and politics is worse now than it was? Or how do you see
it? Feels like full circle. It feels like, I was having this conversation the other day, it feels like it's just repeating itself but in a different format. And obviously now everyone's got devices, everyone's got access, and the amount of racial stuff I'm seeing every day, and platforms and pages are blocked because I don't want to see those feeds. Even people making comments on stuff. You know, I think there was an interview I did, like, I think, was it just after COVID or before? And I was asked about the racial stuff and, he's calling the race card. Oh, he's this. Oh, and I was just like, I'm just telling you facts, whether you like it or not. I've been asked about what I encountered, and that's what I encountered. It is what it is.
Yeah, you know what? It's your life story. It's what you've encountered, and I forget what podcast we did. It was with Ray. It was Ray Keith, and Ray spoke about the racism that he experienced in the 70s and 80s, right?
Yeah.
And someone underneath it, right, why are you bringing racism into a rave podcast? Because what happened to Ray defined his character. He then discovered this rave scene. This man has life experiences, which you touched on. A white person, I can't begin to understand being called the P word and coming off the decks. And I get the hump when someone says to me, oh, you're a shit DJ, mate. That's like, what do you mean? Like, I can front it up and it's life. But I've not come off the decks and had someone like hate on me because of the colour of my skin or my ethnicity or the way I've been brought up, and I think it's important, especially when we're the rave story, especially when we've lived our lives through rave, especially when we believe in this love and energy that come out of this, that actually you should tell your story. Ray Keith should say, well, this is what I faced in the 70s and 80s. It defines who you are and defines your determination and love for the scene, and to get to where you get to make beautiful things like the Sanctuary happen.
Yeah, no, mate, it's as I said, like, there's a bigger picture of passion and creativity. And it doesn't even just stem from the Sanctuary. The Sanctuary was just a monumental part of creating and building something which was a dream. Everything was a dream. Everything was just a vision. I remember seeing flyers from, the events I used to go to, and I'm like, I'd love to be able to create something like this. I'd love to be able to do something like this. And then I've helped loads of friends, develop brands, Raveology, Jungle Gathering, doing like birthday bashes for artists like Trigger and Bassman and Spider, the Drum and Bass Awards, Back to the Roots now, which you're playing in November, and a Time Machine, the Q Club reunion. They're all just doing lovely creative. It's not just a plug here, creating something and hoping you're going to do something really cool with it and nice. And, like, for example, we did the Q reunion and the decor, mate, I went right back. I found the original person that did all the decor for the Q, all the psychedelic stuff. And people were coming and like, wow, it's like, you actually care. You look at because of course there's a responsibility.
Yeah.
I want to do something that it grabs the emotion and the time, and you walk in and go, whoa, it's not just like an empty place and an empty shell. Oh, we're going to do this. There's got to be substance to it. But yeah, the Forever thing was a huge thing. And look, it's still happening. You know, we rolled on the following year. We did 2025. There's 2026. The brand's there, mate. And you know, the person that I launched with, he's going off and he's doing other things with the Forever brand. So it shows the longevity of what was creating. But as I said, it was all a dream. It was all a vision. Hoped all of the things would work out and do well, and they did. And back to that golden era, there was a massive responsibility, because the stories, Dan, of the people that messaged during that, when that came out, like, mate, it was just like unreal. Like, I was smiling in here, because it was like, this is what I wanted to do. And it was like, I met my wife here, I did this there, I did that, we've come out, I haven't seen them. But people came from Australia, flew over from Australia, like people who have left and living over there, and they flew just back from all over Europe. They were travelling in, British people who've moved away. And that's how much this era, still now getting those messages, that's how significant and symbolic that era, and there was a big sense of responsibility for that to be magical.
Good.
You know?
You took me into the question that I was going to ask you about your love for promoting, and you just reeled off all of these promotions that you do. So park up being an MC and promoting. Now I'm putting my promoting head on now. And I'm putting my ADHD head on, because you're about the 50 millionth guest we've had. They've said, I've got ADHD, I haven't been diagnosed, but we actually do an ADHD podcast, if you weren't aware, because our brains fascinate us with where we're at. Promoting is a completely different world to me and you jumping up on stage and saying to people, put your hands in the air, and giving them a big tune that they either put their hands in the air to, or a bass line that they're going to screw face to and get in their energy. Promoting, and I know, well, I can't know your answers, but knowing how persistent you are, and knowing like these ADHD traits that you had, promoting is the hardest part of the rave scene, but the most important part, because without the events, we don't gather people to mix with each other. We don't gather people to have that social aspect. Our friends who are DJs and MCs don't get to perform to people. Us as DJs and MCs, when we're not promoting, our friends as DJs and MCs, wherever they go, we walk in places, and 99.9% of the time get paid pretty good money. Back in the day, 70% of the time we'd go in and get paid. A lot of people would knock us. But it takes some character to promote. What is it that absolutely magnifies you and gets you and draws you to promoting outside of your MCing?
Do you know what? It was like promoting... there's an amalgamation of this big melting pot of lots of things. Promote one, it was a platform to go and perform as well. That was a big one.
Right, Fantasy said that.
Yeah, it was a great platform to go and perform. Creativity, to create something. That was the biggest thing. Creating, you know, making things happen. And I was very fortunate to do it in various aspects. We'll talk about the music as well, but actually be involved in music, but just create something from scratch, a visual idea, to bring it to life, to develop it, to make it actually work. And that was the biggest thing. And when we first, started, mate, I couldn't afford to put parties on. I had loads of friends who helped fund parties and stuff like that. And, it was very, very difficult. It's only in recent times when, things have been okay and been able to do stuff. But still, it's a very hard market. I remember Mike from Slamming said to me, it's a gambler's market. And I remember even doing events where friends have backed, I had friends who were property guys and blah, blah, blah. I said, yeah, there you go. Listen, they used to come out raving. We meet these characters and they're like, go on, put a rave on. And, and the rave didn't work or it broke even and you haven't even got the money to give them back. You know what I mean? It's a very, very difficult, precarious market, but it's just a great thing to do. I'm very fortunate involved in some really good events that are well attended, great memories, people enjoying themselves. So everything from creating something, it being a dream, to developing it, to be able to perform. It keeps the toes dipped in.
Yeah.
It gives you a place to elevate from that, to use that as a springboard to just maintain your existence in something, because you've got to be relevant for people to want you to be involved in their events and stuff. So it's almost like self-promotion as well. There's everything in here, from people enjoying themselves first and foremost, people traveling all over the place, you know, it's everything. It's not one specific thing.
Yeah, for me with promoting, there's two aspects that I've always said. Well, there's a number of aspects. One, we have to have a screw loose, especially when we're used to being artists who go everywhere and there's your money, mate, there's your money, dude, way, I'm making everyone dance. Professional gamblers. We're professional gamblers, absolutely. We've all probably lost more than we've made over the years of doing it. But now, not to get too deep with the ADHD, I know this is not one of our ADHD podcasts, but the chaos that surrounds us doing it, and we have an end date that we have to get to. So one of the ADHD traits that I've learned about, as we have professionals sat over on that table doing it with us, we love, we love having stressful moments. Now we're going to make it happen, and and it works with our lifestyles and our manicness and our craziness. And it takes a special kind of person to, because how long have you promoted now, unbroken, year on year out?
Like I've been involved in promotions from before I even, you know, became known as a rave MC. But as I said, I was helping people and watching people and helping out, and, you know, so I've done it for decades, been around that whole thing. And so the experience is quite vast, you know, and it's put me to the place where I'm at now. And now I just, you know, I do what I enjoy, which is a great place to be, rather than trying to just, you know, live in hand to mouth, or, you know, the stress it can bring you. I wish that because I have a, you know, we'll come to it, I have a full-blown career in martial arts, and I'd wish I'd had another career. I always dreamed, Dan, that I was going to become like, you see the likes of the Prodigy or people who go on to do music stuff. I remember Sister Bliss Ayala being at Birmingham Uni, playing at local parties. She went on to do Faithless and all these things. Darren Orker going on to do Kosheen. And I had this aspiration that I would become a full-blown musician out of this. I would get a career and become this touring artist of that sort of corporate level who could make a really good livelihood out of it. It's that's what I hoped I would achieve. But like as I said, I have a career. I wish I'd have done something like this before a long time ago.
Right.
Because like I said, I remember watching a program, and I think it was Ginny Cooper, the author, and she went, because I'm on TV and because I do this and blah, 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 people think I'm loaded. I actually signed on. Like loads of periods of time. I remember watching another actor going, oh, because I've been in this TV programme and I was in EastEnders, they all think I'm living in a mansion. But I was in a job centre a few weeks ago. So it's a tough place.
And the only thing with promoting, everyone thinks you're making a fortune, don't they?
Man.
1,000 people at 20 quid, it's all yours.
Yeah. They just think like you're absolutely loaded and wedged, and it's a very, very tough. Listen, don't get me wrong. Some people go on to do really, really well. Fair play. But as the reality is, it's a much tougher landscape than everyone really knows. Unless they know, they won't know.
100%. TV presenting. You did some TV presenting.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Tell us.
So I was writing for Eternity magazine, and this was another one. This was an intricate platform.
I think it was you who interviewed me for Eternity magazine. I'm sure. Or Dream. One of them. Yeah.
I did the. So I approached Eternity. It was a leading rave mag at the time, and I said, "Can I review some of the raves that I'm doing, playing that, like around the place and stuff?" And they went, "Yeah." And I was using that. There was no money in it. It was a platform to get exposure, a platform to show your story, especially some of the foreign stuff that was going on. It kept promoters happy as well. They'd probably want to get you again and support you and help you dream and blah, blah, blah. And then through it, Dreamscape were doing their own little mini awards 1995 or 94 with MTV. And Paul Boom said to me, the editor, he said, they're struggling for a presenter. And it was a woman called Sonia. Was it Sonia? She was the party's own presenter. She wasn't around. So I said, I can do it, Paul. And he went, I think you could. So he got me to speak to a guy, a bit of a legend called James Hyman. James Hyman headed MTV Dance, which was massive. And I got to speak to him. And he said, this is a big thing, big difference, you know, from going on a mic and writing a story in a magazine. I said, just give me a chance. And I did it. And straight away we did the first take and he went, bloody hell. And I went, I get it, you don't know me. And he said, I'm so glad I did it. So I did this MTV thing. And again, like, you know, I remember going around my area and people see, bloody hell, you know, going mad, like autographs but people, little people didn't know, I didn't get paid for it. You know, well, this is what I'm saying. This whole thing is like, it's a hard journey. If you're not managed and you don't know what you're doing, yeah, people will take you for a ride. So I did the MTV thing and then I did a load of them. He just came back to me and said, right, I want you to go Res, Ireland, blah, 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 this festival there, Gloucester. And I did a load of these party zone things. And I didn't use it to my full potential. I should have, but I didn't know where I was going with it. I thought the market was limited for me. Really, the market could have been bigger. I could have ended up doing anything with it. I remember Murray, when I did the Dreamscape, he came up to me with his missus, Stacey, and he went, you remind me of like when Philip Schofield first came out. Not the Philip Schofield, no.
What? Yeah, you don't want to be the Philip Schofield of that, mate.
With the gopher in the broom cupboard. Like, that was
I don't know what's worse, him putting his hand in a gopher or the Philip Schofield.
I think I've just used the worst example ever.
That analogy of what you were doing.
So yeah, he said, I just will. But that time he was doing well. He was doing well. There was not a whatever, right? In recent years, he was doing well. He was the man on TV, and I just thought, yeah, I just didn't use it. And then I did various bits and bobs on Sky channels and stuff like that. I did Galaxy, which is now Capital. I did a show on there called Drum and Bass Pressure, and brought drum and bass to the commercial mass market. You know, in Birmingham and that dial is still there, 102.2, it's Capital now. So there's a lot of experience of stuff that has led me to be able to do what I do. And
I also think listening to you, like every person we've had here, you've naturally fallen into amazing situations because of your talent. So, you know, whether it's MCing for Carl Cox, whether it's being a presenter, you know what I mean? Like without that initial persistence of letters and waiting by the door to meet the promoter, in recent times phoning up the police and venues, it's like you can work, I say this all the time, you can work hard all you want in creativity and music, but you have to have something that makes people go, I'm Carl Cox and you're going to be my MC. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so I think your story is absolutely one of the initial and continual hard work and persistence, but you have to have something that make people go, we're putting you on.
Yeah,
we're giving you that moment, because me and you as promoters, back with the old promoter hats on, how many people do we have who are so persistent with us, and now you give them a go and they're not quite right? Do you know what I mean? You have to work hard, but you also have to work on your crafts and get better. And, you know, how many people do we know who are naturally gifted? Like we said at the start, some of the greatest DJs we know, naturally gifted, but lack the persistency.
Yeah.
Then you have people... There's only a few people in our world, and Hype is one of these, and Andy C is one of these, and Darren Stoles is one of these from our world, who are literally just truly gifted and just need to be who they are, and they're off. But most people have to work hard at persistency and consistency and hone their craft, because you didn't just turn up on the mic in 1990 as the person Carl Cox wanted. I didn't start DJing in 1990 being the person who could do 4-hour sets without effing the mix up. I'd F up every single flipping mix. And yeah, I think it's an inspiring story of persistence and learning and honing your skills. Music production.
Yeah. So, like, as I said, really wanted to get somewhere with music. So it stems back from in the 90s. I did a track with Styx. It was called What a Feeling. We got the clearance from Irene Cara as publishers. That it got used in Japan on that Dance Mania stuff alongside all the art.
Did Ola release that? Stage 1? Just another label?
Yes. And then, and that was the first, like, dip trying to do stuff. But then over the years, tried to do some stuff, and I worked with Joe Nebula.
Yeah, we love Joe. We absolutely love Joe.
Love Joe. And we worked on a project called Magic Star. We entered a competition for diesel clothing.
Yeah.
And we won, right? And then we got to go and support Moby. So we went to Bassano in Italy, and we supported.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
What year?
Yeah, that was 2001.
What style?
It was like drum and bass, but like vocal and musical, and there was some beautiful stuff.
What was that like, touring with Moby?
It was a you know what? It was a crazy gig. I saw him, and he was very quiet, and he just stood there and just listened. And he was just like looking. It was like I felt like I was talking to this like holy like character. It was like oozing off him, like some like Yoda type vibe going on. But that was mad. And we won the prize, and the prize they paid for us to go and support him in Bassano in Italy in front of 25,000 people, which was great. Different thing. Like I'm watching Naomi Campbell walking through and sitting in the crowd and all this stuff. It was a great place to be. Then we went on the Essential tour, and who was we performing with? De La Soul, Busta Rhymes, Orbital. We were on first, but who cared?
What a story. What a story.
Yeah, but it was like so close, but yet so far. Then, lots of other musical things that happened. Then I launched a thing called Quantum. I found a rock band in Warsaw. And I just said, listen, guys, I've wanted to do something. I remember telling my friends in Birmingham, one of them, MC Biggie, and I said, rock and D&B is going to work. This is before Pendulum. And they all laughed at me. And I remember him telling me years later, he said, we all laughed at you. We laughed at you. So anyway, I linked up with this band, and I said, listen, it's not working for you. They were brilliant. And they were called, I don't want them called No Americana, and it just didn't work. So we started doing Quantum. And then I started networking, like Jay said from World Dance, if you're not networking, you're not working. So we started putting music together. We started getting a load of BBC introduction plays. And then I managed to get a breakthrough. I managed to meet George Ergatoudis, who was their head of programming at Radio 1. And he absolutely loved it. And he went, and this is the guy who could change your life. And he was like, I said, can I use your words and approach the industry at large? And he went, yes. So I went and bought Music Weekly. Here's a little tip for all you people out there, right? And you youngsters, Music Weekly's still going.
We don't get youngsters watching us. We only get 50, 60-year-olds.
But you never know.
I'm joking.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
Right?
I'm joking.
And you see Music Weekly. And in Music Weekly, you get all the intricate details of who's the manager of this, who's the A&R of this, who's the publisher. And I went to London on foot, and I went to all the places with the CD, with a USB, with a letter, with all the stuff from George Ergatoudis. And I kid you not, Dan, my inbox, and this was like 2014, my inbox was full. Sony, Panasonic, Epic, blah, blah, blah. Everyone was in there because of George Ergatoudis, right? Want to do a showcase. And you know what, bro? I remember watching a program, I don't know what band it was, and they were saying, it's hard to keep a band together. It's hard to manage people. And I said to my guys, I goes, listen, they want us to do a showcase. and they fell apart, man. They fell apart.
Oh, dear.
And you look at, where are they now? Nowhere.
Mate,
One of them's a painter and decorator. One of them's like teaching in the college.
I've got stories like that.
It fell apart. It was there. It was there. I had major publishers look after the biggest groups and bands going, get a show, let's get the showcase. Even chasing me for about a month. And even friends say to me, these lot don't chase. And I couldn't do it. It fell apart.
Mate, I've got, when I was signed to Ministry, I'm not gonna say the artist name or the management name. It's outside of our rave, jungle, hardcore, drum and bass world, acid house worlds. But we had a brilliant young artist who was primed to be huge, right? And I was signed to Ministry, and they really wanted her. They really wanted her. But the manager wanted to send them somewhere else, to Atlantic. And in the end, like, Ministry were literally there, primed to go, contracts, big money, the lot. But the manager took the artist in a different direction, and it completely never happened. And we have so many of those stories, the things that got away, the situations that got away. And it's like the other thing to that, the yin and yang to that, is like, I was actually talking on another podcast the other week about it. Like, I was so close to Sony. You mentioned Sony there, having a Sony album deal. And they'd done like Norman J, they'd done Goldie, they'd done Trevor Nelson, and they wanted to do this old school hardcore thing. And the contracts and everything had come through, and then it just didn't happen. But then 2 years later, Ministry come, and there's always, when you're like us, you know, you could flipping hell, the deal didn't happen, but then you were persistent with the Sanctuary thing and other stuff, and if you give up, great things don't happen elsewhere. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I got so many stories like that where people you've worked with, or situations you've been in, or artists who you believe in, who you know could have been big, and you've put them in front of record companies' faces, and they sometimes the people you work with fuck it up, and they're not sort of like tuned into this opportunity. And some people generally do have this strange mindset where big moments come and it just falls out.
Mate, yeah, we see it all the time. And that was one of them, mate. It was, as I said, George Ergatudis was the head of Radio 1. He made, like, at the time, he made Royal Blood. And they went on to be huge. They took a punt on him. The same he was thinking about us. And like, when I tried to question it with the guy, it was so hard to get
motivate.
Still, now I've kind of like, I'm still involved in music. I've got a project with a friend of mine called Stu, who I got introduced to. Stu like he's worked with like Roy Orbison and like Westlife and all this kind of stuff. But he was a junglist. And he said, I've got all this jungle, man, that I've produced over here. And he pulled, Dan, I'm telling you, if you'd have met him, you'd have been creaming as well. He pulled up this catalogue of like 1,000 tunes, more. And I was listening, and I was like, he goes, but I don't know what to do. I've never known what to do. So then I thought, right, let's come together. I'll MC, I'll get involved as well, blah, blah, blah. It's called Horizon. The socials are Horizon DMB. And then we had a load of releases on Molly Collins' imprint. She started playing it. Then Rennie LeVice. Then it moved on to Charlie T supporting it. Then we had.
I love Charlie T, by the way.
Yeah,
listen, her energy on the internet is amazing.
She's amazing, man.
Yeah.
And she's lovely. Yeah, very supportive.
And do you know what? I've said this a few times. I messaged her once. She put a load of her, and this is going to feed back to your love for the Sanctuary and Helter Skelter. And she put a load of her clips up from a gig. And it was like, it felt like Helter Skelter, but in an hour, right? And I messaged, I don't know her. Like, I don't know. I'm not, like, and I just messaged her and I said, you don't know me, but bloody reminds me of Helter Skelter in 1996, all these kick drums, but drum and bass. And she went, that's my inspiration. She got back to me. I was like, bloody hell, Radio 1 DJ's got back to me.
Yeah,
she's brilliant.
She's brilliant, man. And that's why she's there. That's why she's there. So we get all this support. And then we did a track that got picked up by Ram called Black and White. Then we did a track that went to Jungle Cakes called Heavyweight, featuring General Levy. And then
we love General Levy. He's just. Do you know what I was going to? Sorry to stop.
It's all right.
This is ADHD. I'm learning. Right. So the other week, so General Levy's playing our next Rave Story and Epidemic event. But I was going to wear my General Levy. General Levy and his crew gave me a General Levy top, and I was going to wear it today and congratulate General Levy. He's just had his name put in stone where he lives on the thing. Yeah. But I thought, and then like I went off and did something else and then put a different top on. But big up General Levy for having his name put in the pavement where where he lives. Legendary dude.
Beautiful. Yeah, legendary. I think we're going to see more of that. People are acknowledging stuff, which is great, and it shows how far we've come. Yeah, you know. And then we did that, and then networking again. So 2024, I bump into Todd Terry.
Todd the God. Right?
And I started having a chat with him. Yeah. And I said, Todd, this is who I am. This is what I've done. This is who we are, Horizon. Can we bring to life Blackout? Right? And so, and you remember, it turned the scene on its head. Yeah. Everybody, even Goldie was seen saying in one of the things, you came along and we were like, who the hell's this? And I said to him, can we? And he said, you know what, mate? I've had loads of people come to me saying they want to do this, but they just talk. And I guess it's not intentional, Todd. People just get busy. And he goes, yeah, but the fact, they want to do it and don't do it. So we started on it. We did a version. We gave it to him and he was like, banging, love it. So he did his house version. Right, it's all recent. And then we started to pitch it. And then Matrix and Future Band it. So it's actually going to get released on Viper.
Amazing.
So it's going to be, you've got a Horizon mix, you've got a Matrix and Future Band mix, which is phenomenal, which you expect it to be phenomenal. And then I believe there's a Voltage mix as well. So
you made a Todd Terry drum and bass remix project.
I made that all happen.
Why don't you own a massive management company? like flipping hell. Like you could...
Yeah, I could have.
You could have done.
I could have.
So, Todd the God, like serious.
Yeah.
Sponsorship deals.
Yeah, I was the first to think out the box because I thought it all stemmed from my brother. My brother is nothing to do with the music world, and he's a world-class Olympic weightlifter. He's a lawyer by trade, but he couldn't get no sponsorship. But yet he was a world champion. Went to Olympics and Commonwealth Games and British champion, European champion, world champ, and he couldn't get no sponsorship. Why? Because it was not a spectator sport. That's when my brain kicked. I thought, I'm going to raves where there's thousands of people. Surely there's going to be some people out there. And that was it. Just the approaches. So over the years, it was all free clothing, but again, people thinking in my area, he's loaded. No. I was a poor kid in a rich man's world, like, because Daniel Paul was the first one when his stuff was expensive. Don't you remember? Daniel Paul was like a suit and tie designer, but he was a hippie and he loved the rave scene. Bad. So he did a load of rave gear, Dan, like proper badass and expensive. Mate, he invited me down to London because I did the whole flyer pack and letter, found his office and invited me down. He went, love it. Showed me a load of stuff he was doing. Like, he's putting on illegal parties, right, for his fashion stuff. And he just went, go in that room. And I went in that room, all racks, help yourself, knock yourself out. Mate, I was walking through Soho with bin liners. Didn't have a car. Me and my man walking through bin liners, got pulled by the police as well. What you got in there? I said, we've just been sponsored by them. What? And then like all these clothes. So that's when it started. So over the years, Adidas, Lacoste, Fila, Sergio Tacchini, Avarex, Echo, Fat Farm, South Pole, Dunlop, Reebok. The list goes on. I went for everybody. There's names that I've forgotten about. Lambretta, loads of stuff. They're just giving me like clothes and gear. And I remember people ringing me up. Charlotte Devaney rang me years ago when she was in the 90s. Oh, we've heard you're the guy. I said, I'm not the guy. This is what I've done. I've done my own presentation, and I'm lucky and fortunate to find the right people who have wanting to give me their clothes. And like at Averex, they were like supporting all the rappers, you name them. But the lady, she goes, I've never had anyone from England, and showing me what you've shown me and the lengths. And she was sending me stuff over, mate, from America. I was walking out, and you'd get, like when you got like the hoodlums and the ghetto guys, they're like, "Rah, what's this?" They thought I was some like US rapper because I was coming out in all this clobber, like, and sponsorship deals. It's something it was just about making an effort, and then it was how you make that effort. There's an appliance to the science. You have to have some substance. You have to have some story. You have to have a presentation. And if you've got the presentation and the package, you may get lucky. You may not. There was people I didn't hear from, but there was people I did hear from. And it was all about that.
Do you only chase your passions, what you're passionate about?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I hear you rage, like I know when you're passionate in this conversation because you get amplified, and I know what I'm like. If I'm passionate about something, do you know what I mean? And earlier
because you get it,
yeah, and earlier, and I could see earlier it touched you when you was talking about the racism and people not believing in you, and it just made me think, like, another thing with ADHD people, they don't chase what they don't want to chase. They don't do what they don't want to do. And earlier you mentioned the money you've lost promoting and not making money as an artist, and we don't chase the money. The money's irrelevant. Literally, I'm passionate about clothing, or I am passionate about putting
this
on
whole thing was on passion. Still here because of that. My family say to me, you love that more than martial arts. I said it because it came before. I love martial arts. I love it because I love helping people. We'll talk about that. I love helping people, and there's still a performance and a creativity because I built a brand and blah blah blah. So there's a crossover to that, which just married well. But I love this. This is I had a chance and opportunity to study medicine. I turned it down because I got picked up by Carl, and I was enjoying the music and traveling and blah blah blah. And then I went back to education in 2014. I graduated with a 2-1. In criminology and policing. I was going to go in, some people are going to, really? I was going to join the police, not as a straightforward officer. I wanted to be a dog handler because I love animals. And I just thought I'd love that job as a career. And I liked the whole forensic and criminology aspect and stuff. But I did a dramatic U-turn to do martial arts. But yeah, there was other things I could have done. I wish I'd have done, and I wish I'd have had a career alongside it, because I probably would have done a lot more things.
When you say a career, you mean, what do you mean?
Just like a job that I've got now, coaching and owning a gym. I wish I'd have done something, because I would have done a lot more for myself. But I'm still, as I said, I would never change anything. It's been an absolute fantastic journey, and I'm still involved now. But I have another side to me as well, which is
great. You said you wanted to touch on the passion of the martial arts and helping people.
Yeah,
and then we'll get back to the rave.
Yeah.
Tell me about your passion and love for martial arts and why it's important to you. And obviously Jay World Dance come in, and you've helped him with his niece. And, I know that he has a lot of admiration for you for the martial arts and how you've inspired him. Which I think that's great that Jay come in. I think I
love that, man. Yeah. We're so close. We talk all the time. Like you were saying, how you talk to certain people.
Yeah,
it's really good. Like, you get certain people that touch you in your life. Yeah, he's one of them, man. Yeah,
good.
And what a person to have. You know what I mean? Not everyone gets that access, and I'm very fortunate and lucky to have someone like that in my life. But yeah, I got into martial arts. So stemming back to the trouble and stuff that I had some hairy moments whilst working in the rave scene. And going back to, like, I've got to mention him, God rest his soul, Barrington, Zulu Baz, who've done a book. He's been in a film. They're making a film on him. When we was doing events, I had some hairy characters try to move towards me, and I had to go and approach him to help look after me. But yeah, we had some really hairy moments, and I always questioned myself, what would I do in a physical altercation? And the answer was I wouldn't know what to do. So I started martial arts in 2009. So I studied Wing Chun. Why? When we walked past that building, just next to here, the London Academy of Wing Chun. My eyes went, because I've seen it online a lot and stuff, and I thought, oh wow. So I started Wing Chun, which is close quarter self-defense, and it was the martial art that Bruce Lee was taught before he went off and formed his own style. And I even went to China, and I studied at Ip Man School, which is, Ip Man was the guy that taught Bruce Lee. So I went over there, was very lucky with the Midlands Wing Chun, went over there and trained. And so I started martial arts because I was fed up of being bullied and aggressively spoken to and intimidated. And I just wanted the knowledge of just being able to look after myself. So I started that. Then through it, I did some hybrid, modern day, almost like Krav Maga and Defence Lab, martial arts styles, self-defense. And then while I was doing that, I was helping my coach with his marketing, because most martial artists, they're just great practitioners. They're not business people. They're not creative people. So I helped him market. And while I was helping him market, I was also assisting the classes in my spare time, helping the kids and stuff. And I really found it really rewarding, Dan. I really loved it, especially with the kids who had learning difficulties and this, that, the other, and parents coming up and going, I remember there was one child, he was severe learning difficulties. And the time and TLC I put into him and his dad coming up, you've really touched my kid. And it made me think of and it was really rewarding, because I didn't do it for acknowledgement or praise. I did it because I loved it. I was helping this kid, So, and through that, I got to learn about coaching and helping. And then it got to a point where I was like, most martial artists are just great practitioners, but I've got promotional skills. Coaching is performance-based. I've got that. And I'd like to do this myself. So I worked with British Military Martial Arts from Telford, so all ex-military. So I trained with them, and it was kickboxing. Got to my black belt in that. Got to my equivalent of black belt in Wing Chun. And then with my family and my partner, we got together, with Joe, and we got together and we formed Combat, which with a K, Combat Martial Arts. And we developed Combat, our own branding, creativity, the networking, and the model. The model was important. It had to be something with substance. So whilst learning, I noticed there was a lot of things that weren't being practiced. So you'd go to some martial arts school and you'd have a badge on there, anti-bullying. But where's your anti-bullying program? No keywords, no focus words, no enhanced learning, nothing towards inclusion, so ADHD, autism, blah, 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 dyspraxia, all those children and people. Ticking boxes for school, enhancing focus, enhancing better behaviour. So I built this model with the people around me. And next minute, we're in schools. We're teaching part of the education system. I'm now teaching in a behaviour school where the landscape is harsh, Dan, harsh. Going into that school was like visiting someone in jail and being told how you've reduced ill behaviour. It was all for that purpose, to do something significantly, to make an impact. And if I could prosper from it and turn it into a business, that was just a massive bonus. If you can make money from it and a livelihood, that's just a bigger bonus. So it had everything in it to be successful and to try and do something that changed people's lives. And then through it, we've been featured on all the news programmes, BBC Midlands Today, Sky News, Central News, written about in the Mirror and the Sun, Birmingham Mail. We got all this coverage from all this good work, whether it was about enhancing girls and getting girls into self-defense, helping with all these labels and, you know, of behavior traits, building confidence, anti-bullying. I work with an array of people who've been bullied, kids who've been fostered, people who've had loads of hardship, you know, self-esteem, women who've been raped or witnessed domestic abuse or faced domestic abuse. So all these things are developed, and that is such a massive importance. And going back to the rave thing, I'd never spoke about the rave thing, and I wanted to keep it away from there. So just like when we walked here, which I loved, me and you walking down the street, I'm walking with Dan, and all of a sudden this geezer like walks out the wall like some like ghost, and he just goes, and Dan's talking about, I used to play down here and house party. I was there too.
yeah.
Right, and I was like, and people have recognised you was blah blah, and you know, it all entwines. But the martial arts is so important to me and my life and my world. Music will always be important, but there's a new chapter which coexists with a chapter of a passion and a dream and blah blah blah. So yeah, that's what we've done with martial arts. It embodies everything I've learned and more, and to make people's lives better and to enrich people's lives and to touch people's lives. And that's where I'm at in my stage of life. Someone said to me, I think you're misunderstood, because back in the day, I didn't know how to behave sometimes, Dan, and with people and how to communicate. And I think, you know, sometimes it's not served well in who I am. But I think now, later in life, people are getting to know who this guy is, which is great, because, you know, I think I have good intentions and a good soul, and just want to do good.
Yeah, mate, listen, your passion comes across incredible. I've had lots of people sat there, lots of people, and I'm sure everyone who watches this will see the passion. You know, they will if they're not just going to see it, they're going to feel it. And I've learned so much. I've learned so much about everyone who comes here. And I'm grateful that you've come in, shared so many passionate moments. I don't think I've ever had someone who, like, when they get so passionate, the voice goes so up. Tell us about the book, when it's coming out, where they can get it, etc.
Yeah, so Dan Brightmore, who's a friend of the author that you've worked with, Woodsy.
Oh, Woodsy! Yeah, go on.
And Woodsy found me, Dan.
Yeah.
And he said, Dan is a raver. But Dan had worked with Loaded Magazine in interviewing all the
They all started together, Andrew Woods and all these guys. Yeah.
So Dan's got a whole page on YouTube of him sat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro and The Rock and you name it, all these legendary superstars, because that's what he did. But he helped me put this together, and it's about my journey, but it's also about the history of the rave scene. And we've got loads of people in there, man. We're very lucky. We've got Andy C in there. We've got Earl from UB40. We've got Dave from Helter, Skelter up and down. We've got Slipmat is in there. My friend who's embodied the front page by that lovely quote, Carl Cox. You know, there's more people to be featured in the book. And it's called, you know, Make Some Noise, which was apt. It was about, which is symbolic not only to something I said on the mic, but it was like, make some noise with your life. People can tell you no. You know, if you've got a dream and the appliance of science and you're real. You know, it's all right saying, I want to be an astronaut, but I'm not academically fit, you know, blah, 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 and I haven't been to aeronautical school. It ain't going to happen.
Listen, if you wanted to be an astronaut, you would have been sending them letters out. I know you would have been. But it just happens you didn't want to be an astronaut. You wanted to do other things.
Yeah. So we've got Dan's writing it right now, and, you know, it's going to come out hopefully in November, in the latter part of the year. to coincide with, events later in the year, Sanctuary Forever and stuff. And it was a personal achievement to document that. And, people were doing their own versions and books. And I was heavily inspired by, and I'm not just saying it because I'm with you, because you've got to draw inspiration from somewhere. And when I saw you doing your stuff, and I thought, yeah, it'd be great to be able to do something. There's a history and a story that I have, and it'd be great to document it and share it. And also, again, being honest, it would open up opportunities, because I'm always there to try and look for something else, because I need that creative spur, and God knows where it's going to take me. But if it goes somewhere, brilliant. I'll try and just freestyle it and enjoy the ride and what I can do and share the word.
Well, the beauty with a book is the same as a record or the same as a tape pack from back in the day. Once it's out there, and then it's just got to go and find its people, and it's essential to document this stuff. It's absolutely essential, because none of us are getting any younger.
Yeah.
When I set about releasing the books that I did, when I set about this podcast, it's not all about the big massive DJ names or the big massive promoters who to the naked eye, they're the ones. There's so many other amazing stories and amazing things, like I'm as interested in you talking about Keith Suckling as I am about you talking about Carl Cox. I'm as interested in you talking about the small clubs in Birmingham as I am you talking about Helter Skelter, because
well, that was the beauty of having someone like you, because you understand it.
Yeah.
You keep history alive. So who was asking me about Keith Suckling? No one. But you did.
Yeah.
Because you get it. You talk about the things and the intricate things, and they're important.
They're so important. Mate, thank you very much for coming in. Good luck with the book.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything you do. I don't think the world is safe or should be safe from you getting an idea, because when you do get an idea, it's quite apparent that idea, I'm going to swear, I couldn't earlier because Jay was in with his niece. When you get a fucking idea, it happens. It goes. And I hope anyone who watches this finds inspiration in going for your passions, because that's what you are. You're a passionate guy who don't let your passions die.
Much love. Same as you.
Boom.
Boom.
Magika.
Peace and love.